Welcome to the Biz Gone Social podcast. We help entrepreneurs navigate how to get known, get customers, and get the edge over their competition. Here is your host, Lorraine Duncan.
So here we are on the Biz Gone Social podcast, and I'm so glad to be here. My promise to you, as always, is I want to give you a little bit of verbal caffeine that's going to energize your business and help you stay social. Because after all, don't you want to be the business that everyone's talking about? I know I do. And I am so stoked today to have Raul Ocho with me. Welcome, Raul.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
And so tell our audience a little bit about what you do and who you serve.
So I do business consulting and advisory work for digital bootstrapped founders selling either services that are digital and online, or who are selling digital products, memberships, and coaching programs. And there's a lot of between now and the inception and the journey, from starting an agency back in 2016 with a dude that I never met online. So we did the remote thing, and that scaled up pretty well, or it got me out of the day job back in the day. And then from helping other digital teams go from 7 people to 21 and triple in almost triple. I have to put the caveat there. We almost tripled in less than a year, to helping strategize for companies to try to hit from 50. We were trying to hit 100 million, did 50 in 22. And just all the different war stories and insights and disciplines learned and the battle scars earned.
So you at one point, did you own a digital agency? Is that what you used to do, or?
That's where I started.
And so what made you decide that you wanted to help others?
I think it was all by accident. So we were actually trying to start a software company. And then that translated in, the market we're actually serving needs marketing support. So we learned that, started selling and supporting clients, and we had a nice little portfolio of clients. And then when we transitioned out of that, because it wasn't something that we were in alignment to build, my business partner and I, we still remain good friends to this day. And he flew out, he's from New York, so we flew out to San Diego and we surfed and hung out and whatnot. But the opportunities after that were to see other agency owners and helping them on the behind the scenes in their operations and their business model and their scalability and their team, et cetera. And when we did that, nearly tripling in a year, a coach at the time was like, hey, you should write that down. I'm like, write what down? Like, you should write some of the principles that you learned. I'm like, why? Just trust me. So I did it. That became the first book. And then I started consulting and helping other agency owners. And that compounded it upon itself to really start thinking about thinking and starting to create and develop strategies based on these principles. So, I don't create theories and I don't create anything around what could be. It's like, here, this is what worked. Here's what I'm seeing working. Here's what we've applied, and it's also working. So developing upon that, and I think it's more exciting. It zones into my area of genius, and the results so far are pretty fruitful.
Now, what are some things, or what is maybe one strategy that a digital marketing agency could use that would help them right away?
I think the key thing right now is designing profitability and leveraging different tools and technologies to facilitate that. So as we look at this, what I'm going to go through are principles and strategies that typically don't change. You may change your approach and the tactics, but the strategy itself may not change. It's, over time. And I do this with my private cohorts or my agency owners that I'm working with one-on-one. I want to look at the business model and identify specifically what investments, or we call them expenses, but what investments are going to the business. This could be your overhead costs. These could be your team personnel costs, your salary, the tools, etc. And then what investments are going to specific team members, not vendors, not outside partners, but team members that actually touch and hold and feel and support the client. So I'm getting very visual there. They're actually working with the client. And there we think about that pod, or I call them task units. We think about them as an investment vehicle, because their salary, their expense is an investment to make a return, and they're handling a portfolio of clients. So as you look at that and start dissecting your agency at that point, my goal and the goal that we developed to design profitability is to design the team in such a way where you can create the profitability that you want to see in your agency. The goal that I always aim for is 30 to 40%. So when you're doing 1 to 3 million, you have a nice profit cash flow. But the goal is designing for profitability here first. And the 4 principles that you can leverage, and you can influence this right now. So these are the big aha moments. The 4 principles that you can leverage right now to design profitability are, the levers are your average revenue per client. So that's determined by your pricing model. That's determined by the problems that you solve. That's determined by your marketing positioning. Then the second is the number of clients you actually want to serve. Do you want to be a little boutique agency? And boutique is not a bad thing. Or do you want to be having multiple offices, and one in London, New York, and San Francisco, or LA? And I have team members or friends actually who are expanding globally. So is that the model you want to take? And that's determined by, again, your exit strategy, your business strategy, and the types of stressors and day-to-day that you want to live. The third variable is your labor efficiency. So the actual team working on the accounts, how they're executing, how they're doing the work that they're doing, and how effective are they at that through your leadership, through your management, through your tools and technologies, including artificial intelligence if you want to leverage that. And the fourth, and this is funny because I talked to a CFO just the other day around this, is your overhead costs. Now, both myself and the CFO agree that you can't cut yourself to growth, but you do want to be prudent with the investments that you're making. So identifying where can I leverage or get more of a return for the expenses or the investments I'm already making in the agency. We start designing that way, then the goal, the outcome of this is to create a price floor where you're not going to price or have projects that come in below that price point. So you're always guaranteed profitability. But then this also helps you on the flip side, look at the services that you deliver. How do you productize those services? How do you fulfill on those with the team? Then how do you create bespoke offerings through productized services to really create value anchors or value pricing and start getting out of the, hey, just hire me because I can do X, Y, and Z for you, and start being positioned as, you work with me, you're going to get this result and this outcome, and this is what we're striving for together. And that's a different dichotomy that we can talk about.
No, that's pretty good. I was thinking about, you talked about a lot about leveraging team and talked about how your team actually handles a certain amount of the clients and everything like that. You have something that is called the 80-20 day for digital teams, a holistic approach in your digital work. Can you talk a little bit more about how that works out when you're working with teams?
Oh yeah, this is like anytime I'm flown out and we're talking on a quarterly meeting with teams or leadership retreats or doing one-on-ones with team members and helping them, it always comes back to, how do I do my work better? Because no one teaches you how to actually execute running remote, how to run your day, and how to actually live with intention. They teach you the how, like how to fill the day, but not how to run it. So it's all about running with intentionality in alignment with your personal goals. So this is a bigger piece of the play, but the basic 80-20 day is just intention. And I like to break up the day into 3 sections. This is outside of your morning routine, your evening routine. So if you wanted to look at your morning routine, that's one section. The evening routine, that's another section. So 5 total. But for your actual work day, it's 3 sections. And the first is what I call your 80-20. Now, I didn't make up 80-20, obviously, so I'd have to make that. I'd have to invented that, but it's all around being intentional. What can I focus on during this block of time, anywhere from an hour to 3 hours per day, that is going to move the needle significantly? So if I only did that today, the day would be a success and a win. And you schedule that first off, before your phone calls, before your stressors of the day, before your pings and your slacks and whatever. And the second half of the day is looking at, what are the things that I need to execute today, deep work or the tasks of the day. These are your meetings. These are responding to clients. These are responding to emergencies, et cetera, et cetera. Then at the end of your day, this is anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour, sometimes 2 hours, depending on how you structure your day, is around building up for tomorrow, recapping today, finding opportunity of where you could have done better, what you did well, what you appreciated, looking at tomorrow and seeing, what appointments do I have? What meetings do I need to be ready for? What are the things that I can come prepared so that tomorrow's taken care of today? And this doesn't seem very complicated. It actually is very simple. But living with this intention, it's helped cut hours from a woman who was doing direct response media buy, Facebook strategy and media buy. She was doing 8 to 12-hour days, and we consolidated that she can actually be okay working 6 to 8 hours a day, depending on the volume of work, and just being intentional with your time.
I love that. I have this little planner that actually goes breaks up the day like that. And then at the end of it, it always goes, what's your win for the day? And I always love looking at, how I can be more productive with my time and everything. I want to go over to a little thing that's kind of been coming up in the digital marketing world right now, which is AI. And I'm just curious to what you think about ChatGPT and how, if you like it, or how are you using it to leverage your business and others?
So, I mean, that's a very tactical question. I can dive into that. I also want to just hit the overarching 30,000-foot view that there's a lot to unpack here, because AI or any technology that you use will support some of the execution that you do and some of the client onboarding. It will not support trust building, influence building, trust, and buy-in with the clients and the teams that you're working with. That's uniquely human. The other thing AI cannot do, and this is a philosophical thing, is that AI works towards looking at the past and combining all the data points to create something based on what already exists. But our minds as humans have the ability to take potential and make it into actuality. We can actually create something that doesn't exist in potentiality and turn it into actuality. Now, AI cannot do that because it uses data points from the past to create something new, but it can't look future to the future of what can be. So I think it's a clear distinction. When it comes to leveraging the tools, like I use Claude, what's it called? Leonard, all these different pieces, like I lost track. And my goal really is, how can I improve the work that I'm doing through the technology? However, the clear, the basic principle of human existence will remain the same. Input equals output. You got crummy input, you'll get crummy output. One of my guys runs a dev shop and web marketing shop. And his developers, he's got like a 10x developer. And in the developing world, a 10x developer can produce like the 10 times more code, quality code, than your average developer. These are like unicorns. These are brilliant developers. And he compared with the GPT when it came out in Copilot that, yes, you can take a 1x developer and turn them into a 10x developer, but it also reinforces bad code. So if the 1x developer is still learning, or a junior developer, or if I'm just playing around pretending to be a developer, I can be a 10x developer with crummy code. So it'll amplify like muckery, it'll amplify the bad. But if you're already talented and you're a 10x copywriter, you're a 10x strategist, you're a 10x developer, it can make you 100x. So it can give you superpowers if you know what you're doing. On the copy side, I mean, I think you live in copy, I live in copy. Like, it's all about like, how do you position, how do you write, et cetera, et cetera. It can write all of our copy. Granted, we still need the human quality assurance of copy editing. Is this in alignment with the brand tone? Is this in alignment with the strategy? Is this in alignment with our positioning? How will we just tweak some words? Because if I read online and I see this everywhere, unlock your potential, all these different things, like it's all these cliche hype words that the GPT is spitting out. And it's always the words unlock, revolutionize, potential, and all these different things. You can start reading like this is the same garbage everyone's using and no one's thinking anymore, which is amazing, because if you actually think, you can stand out.
Yeah. I've even noticed when I was dabbling a little bit, and at first it started to, after I was using it for a while, it started to sort of mimic how I talked and everything. But then all of a sudden I'm like, I was reading it. Wait a minute. I would never say that. And like, you have to, it's just kind of funny, and you have to be really careful and be very strategic also with the questions you ask it and what you're plugging in, because sometimes it doesn't even make sense.
Oh, so. Yeah. It hallucinates, and it only has a limited memory. So you'd have to look at other models to have a larger library to recall information from.
Yeah. And I heard somebody say the other day, AI is kind of like a little child. So it's going to go out there and it's going to find, like it's going to have an answer, but it may not always be the right answer. It was kind of an interesting little thing. I want to talk about briefly one more thing, and then we're going to get real for a little bit. Scaling. What is like one strategy that can be used that can help somebody scale their digital marketing agency?
I think this carries from the profit design. That's the number one. Like you need to first have the foundation before you scale. And the second is the productization of your services. Because when you have all the inputs that you need to do the output of the work that is required for the client, once you start packaging that, it makes it much easier to fulfill. It makes it much easier to sell to clients, and it makes it easier for you to package different service offerings and bundles into new offerings. And I think that give and take where we're heading in terms of the marketplace, where, a lot of quote unquote services are going to be commoditized, allows us to keep a competitive advantage as service providers to be positioned as outcome or results driven versus just another pair of hands.
Nice. I love that. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit because you're a business owner. I'm a business owner. What is the one thing that you love about being in business for yourself?
It's a great question. I think it stems back to the original intention, like I think over 10 years ago, as I never knew what entrepreneurship was until I learned about it. I'm like, oh, this is like a really cool realm to be creative. And that's what I love about it. I can create new offers, serve markets, position myself as I please, but most importantly, make a difference in who I care about, the bootstrap founder, and what they can do with that.
I love that. Now, everybody paints being in business for themselves as being glamorous or just really cool. A lot of
it's not glamorous.
Exactly. So, I mean, the reality is that we all have challenges at business as a business owner. And so what would you say is your number one challenge that you face in today's world as being a business owner?
I think that it's a lonely road. Like if you hang out like with friends or whatever, like, so I have my IRL in real life, like people think of know what I do. And then there's the stuff that I do online, like, oh, like people see you differently. And it's definitely lonely. So finding ambitious business owners in the same business boat or similar services, I think that's always a huge goal. And that's why I think communities are so important, because it is lonely. No one really understands the stressors, even though some of them might, just being connected. But it's definitely not glamorous. It's fun. But what's the old saying that you got to be a lunatic to work harder, to work for yourself, to make less in the beginning than you could in the corporate gigs. But I think the payoffs are way, way worth it.
Absolutely. Somebody resonated with you today, needs your help. How would they get in touch with you?
I think the best way is the website, dogoodwork.io. That's dogoodwork.io for input, output. You get free resources, books, blogs, et cetera, whatever you need to help you grow.
That's awesome. And I want to thank you again for being such a great guest. And until next week, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Biz Gone Social podcast. Find us on Instagram at Biz Gone Social for extra tips. Check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, stay social.